You're watching The Legal Breakdown. We've got a different kind of episode today. Glenn, you yourself were actually in the news here. You had attended the Principles First Summit in Washington, D.C. A bomb threat was called into the venue. Jim Acosta came on and published a letter that was sent to law enforcement that you were actually named in. I'm going to put the letter right here on the screen and read it out loud. To honor the J6 hostages recently released by Emperor Trump, I've constructed 4 pipe bombs out of 1x8-inch threaded galvanized pipes, end caps, kitchen timers, some wires, metal clips, and homemade black powder. I recently placed one in the room I rented at the JW Marriott at 1331 Pennsylvania Ave in D.C. It is rigged to explode as soon as the door next opens. I also shoved another pipe bomb down the toilet in the bathroom nearby where the Principles First Summit is being held. Mark Cuban, Chris Christie, John Bolton, George Conway, Michael Luttig, Adam Kinzinger, Michael Steele, Jeff Duncan, Bill Kristol, Frank Figluzzi, Glenn Kirshner, Stephen Riker, Norm Eisen, and especially Michael Fanone all deserve to die. In that spirit, the third device has been placed inside Michael Fanone's mother's mailbox, which is rigged to explode when it opens. Currently, I'm nearby John Bolton's home. By the time you've read this email, the final device will have been deposited inside of his mailbox and rigged to explode in the same way. To my family, I simply did what needed to be done. MAGA. Okay, first off, Glenn, are you okay?
I'm okay, Brian, and what I really want to spit out first is whoever is responsible for this bomb threat. Of course, no bombs were found, but it was extraordinarily disruptive. I'll talk about what we went through in a few minutes. Whoever is responsible for this bomb threat, fuck you, right? Because if this guy or this organization thinks they're going to stop folks from standing up for the rule of law, standing up for the Constitution, fighting for a better America than we are experiencing right now, you got another thing coming. So, this is something that shouldn't happen. This is not a matter of politics or party or ideology. This was a conference. It was the Principles First Summit 2025. Who attended? This is an organization made up of conservatives, principled conservatives, Republicans, former Republicans, many of them, when they asked for a show of hands in the audience, and it was well attended, kind of feel like they are now unaffiliated because they believe the Republican Party, their Republican Party, the traditional Republican Party, no longer exists. In fact, we heard talk about the Republican Party being dead. And this is a group of principled Republicans who, frankly, are looking to build a coalition, reach out to folks on the left, reach out to, people of principle, regardless of what your politics, your ideology, or your party affiliation is, and begin to build, a better country. Because what we are experiencing right now at the hands of Donald Trump, he is taking our country down the drain, and we're not willing to go there with him. So, I was asked to speak at what is a conservative conference. I was happy to accept the invitation. I was happy.
Which, by the way, is why you left MSNBC, and we spoke about that last week. It's to be able to get in front of audiences who were more conservative, who you might have the ability to better be able to persuade, given your wealth of experience.
Yeah, exactly right. I decided to leave MSNBC after 6.5 years. They actually let me out of my contract early so I could begin to at least offer up my commentary to conservative outlets, and some of them are taking me up on it. I don't want to talk about politics. Frankly, I never did. I want to talk about the rule of law and the importance of the rule of law to not just a healthy democracy, but to a viable democracy. So, in that vein, I happily accepted the invitation. I was thrilled to be on a panel together with my friends, retired FBI agent and assistant director Frank Figluzzi, former FBI agent Asha Rangappa, and lots of other folks who were there. Mark Cuban was there to speak. Judge Luttig was there to speak. There were governors there. It was a wonderful crowd. It was a wonderful event. So, of course, whoever this person or this organization decided they had to disrupt it with this very specific bomb threat. I will tell you, Brian, they put the speakers, myself included, in what they were referring to as a safe room in the interior of the hotel with a sort of a fortified door. I never felt at risk. We have seen bomb hoaxes called in, over and over and over again during election cycles and otherwise, and I never felt like I was in fear. I will say the good men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department and some members of the Metropolitan Police Department who are now retired and provide security services did a wonderful job keeping us notified as to what was going on, how long it was anticipated the bomb-sniffing dogs might take to clear the Marriott Hotel in the area where we were having the conference. And you know, now the question becomes, what kind of an investigation is the federal government going to launch into bomb threats, saying that I and other, I guess, folks, I'm not going to characterize them, quote, should die, and that's apparently why this bomb threat was called in. What kind of an investigative effort will the federal government undertake? Let me tell you, when bomb threats like this are made, ordinarily, ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, would take the lead, or they would work it jointly with the FBI. Who is the director of the FBI? Kash Patel, who was just named as the potential director of a second law enforcement agency, ATF, Kash Patel. So let's see what kind of a robust investigation will be put together by the federal authorities into this, very serious incident.
Glenn, if Kash Patel is going to launch an investigation, which under normal circumstances an FBI director or ATF director would, is there any insight into whether we'll know or not?
Listen, generally speaking, we don't talk about investigations that we launch or that are pending, that are ongoing, unless and until it results in an indictment that is unsealed and made public. That is when, for example, the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office, as the federal prosecutors securing the indictment, will first step in front of the cameras and simply say, there was an indictment, it was unsealed, I can share the details with you because they are public, and we will take no questions and we will make no further statements. That is the ordinary course of law enforcement. So will we know? We shouldn't know. But I have a feeling, Brian, given what I know as a former career federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C., working in conjunction with these offices, the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, and other law enforcement agencies in D.C., I'll have a pretty good idea of whether, we are the victims. We are some of the named victims of this, death threat. These people should die, and that's why I am planting pipe bombs at a location where I know they will be. So, yeah, I have a feeling I'll be able to report back to our viewers whether there is any indication that federal investigations are underway.
Given the fact that you are one of the named victims here along with these other folks, is there any way that you could take legal action moving forward, or because it was a threat that's solely under at the discretion of the ATF and the FBI to determine whether or not they want to move forward with some type of legitimate investigation?
Yeah, Brian, I'm going to let law enforcement do its thing. Am I confident that Kash Patel will make this an investigative priority? There were threats leveled and bomb threats made to a bunch of folks who are looking to bring our government back to sanity and back to allegiance to the Constitution and the rule of law. We'll see. We'll see. Now, I really wouldn't even have a cause of action at this point because we don't know who it was that made these threats. And what I'll also say, Brian, is that when I was prosecuting cases and there was a parallel civil suit that was filed, it made the law enforcement investigation a little bit more challenging. And often what I would do as the prosecutor is file an appearance in the lawsuit, the civil suit brought, for example, maybe by the victims of the crime, and we would ask the judge to stay the civil suit, pause it while the law enforcement investigation and prosecution runs its course. Because first and foremost, the wrongdoers need to be held accountable criminally, rights of the victims need to be vindicated, and the community needs to be safe. And after the conclusion of the law enforcement case, that is when the civil suit should progress, in the opinion of at least career prosecutors.
Glenn, what does it say that more and more we're seeing these right-wingers resort to political violence to achieve their ends?
It's saying that they continue to follow Donald Trump's lead. Yeah. How many volatile, threatening posts and statements did Donald Trump make about deranged prosecutor this or conflicted judge that? I'll never forget Donald Trump posting a picture of himself wielding a baseball bat, appearing to swing it at whom? Alvin Bragg, who was depicted in the adjacent photograph, appearing to have his hands up in front of him. That is not so subtle, the message he is communicating. Alvin Bragg is my sworn enemy, so MAGA, get him. That is the subtext of so much of what Donald Trump has stated, has posted, just incessantly whined and complained about it. Is it any wonder that MAGA seems to get after Donald Trump's perceived enemies? I'll never forget when I was sitting in the courtroom in federal court in Washington, D.C., listening to the presidential immunity argument, and one of the appellate court judges said in response to Donald Trump's lawyer saying, wait a minute, Donald Trump is not responsible for what his followers do. That judge said, stop it. Donald Trump posts things and his supporters respond. So this is exactly what we have come to expect.
Well, look, let me just say that the fact that you have become a target for these people is all the indication that everybody watching right now needs, that they view you as a threat because you are one of the few people who is actually standing up for the rule of law, for justice, and for what is right in this country. And they perceive that as a threat to their agenda. The one way to help bolster Glenn against folks like these is to, if you're not yet subscribed to his channel, go ahead and subscribe to his channel. The bigger an audience he has, the harder it will be for these people to be able to assert any of their control or power or dominance over him. The bigger of a megaphone we have on the left, the harder it'll be for the Kash Patels of the world, for the Pam Bondis of the world, and for these right-wing vigilantes of the world to try to put every one of us under their thumb. So to that point, again, if you're not yet subscribed to Glenn's channel, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Building up this left-wing ecosystem and elevating the voices of people who are not afraid to fight out against these vigilantes, these folks sending in bomb threats, is exactly the way that we have to advance moving forward. So with that said, again, I'll put the links to both of our channels right here on this screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.